Good morning. How y'all doing? Little T looking at me. Hope everybody having a good morning. Hope everything going okay for you. Just listen to some Duke of Earl, trying to get my mind settled down. Morning, Willie. Good to see you, bro. All right, I'm running a little late this morning. My apologies. But good morning, Mama. But we here nonetheless, and we'll get started this morning. I know some of you see my title of my lesson this morning, talking about love, and hey, let me just go ahead and tell you now, I ain't trying to make nobody, let me tell you, I go ahead and tell you this right now before you even do it. Don't be taking my lessons, sending them to your spouse, you know, and then having your spouse, hey, Efra, we miss you too, girl. We love you. Love the kids. Tell the kids we say hello. Hey, Yolanda. Good to see you. Also, Miss Rice. Tell your kids Big T said hello too. Good to see you, Brother Terry joined in. This video that I'm about to make, do not be sending this to your spouse. And have especially if you're a woman, don't be sending this to your husband saying, listen at this, and then have your husband mad at me. Because I'm telling you, the videos that I make on here, they are for me just as much as anybody else. Okay? So, when I make these videos, I make these videos to help all of us, including myself. Okay? And so let's use these videos for that purpose, to build each other up. If you send this video to your spouse, to your husband, you should send it with this attitude, and that is, hey honey, I heard a lesson from Brother Edwards. It really helped me. It really benefited me to make me want to be better as a wife. And I was wondering if you had time, could you listen to it too, to see some things in there that may stand out to you. See, if you approach it that way, you may get a good response. But if you send it and you say, you need to listen to this. No. I go ahead and tell you right now, you're not going to have a good response from that right there. So, let's stay away from that. But I want to talk about love this morning. And when I ask the question, like Tina Turner asked the question, what's love got to do with it? And hey, love has a lot to do with it. But before we can, what's the title to this story? Before we can know what love has to do with it, I think we have to first understand what love is. You know, a lot of people have it backwards as to what love is, especially our young people, our teenagers. When our teenagers fall in love, man, I tell you what, not only when they fall in love, but how many times they fall in love. Our teenagers fall in love overnight. And then if that didn't work out, it's like they're right back in love with somebody else the next week. And it's a misconception about love. They didn't fall in love. They fell in emotions. And many may think that love is an emotional state, and it's not. Love has nothing to do with emotions from a Bible standpoint. Okay? Okay, that's good. I'm in a relationship that makes me feel like I'm not, well, that ain't good. I didn't see the not right. I'm in a relationship that makes me feel I'm not good for her. You know something, Jason? That there is a symptom of, I think, what the definition of love is. Because as we look at the definition of what love is today, we're going to see that emotions are merely products of love. But love is not an emotion. Love produces emotions, or the lack of love can produce the opposite emotion. The opposite emotions. And so you know, when a person tells you they love you, it has to be consistent with what they show you. Because if a person is telling you they love you, yet their actions are producing opposite and bad and negative emotions within you, it's not love. It's not love. And I think understanding the definition of love is going to help not only us, but it's going to help us teach our children too, when they know a guy or a girl actually loves them. See, if we teach our children properly what love is and how they can know if a person truly loves them, then our children possibly will make a good decision on who to choose to date and marry. But they got to have the concept of what love is in their mind. Okay, so to get this concept down, I want to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Because 1 Corinthians chapter 13 gives us the definition of what love is. And it may be different from what you may have understood love to be. Okay, so 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And we're just going to go through the chapter and look at these verses and kind of get an understanding. Now, just to give you some context here, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, 13, and 14 all go together. Paul is talking about spiritual gifts. In all of these chapters, he is talking about spiritual gifts. 1 Corinthians 12, 1 Corinthians 13, and 1 Corinthians 14. Okay, in chapter 12, he talks about spiritual gifts. In chapter 14, he talks about spiritual gifts. But in chapter 13, he talks about love. So you got 2 chapters on the outside and 1 chapter in the middle that addresses the idea and the concept of love. Why is that? Here's why. These people in Corinth were tearing each other apart. They were dogging each other out. They were pushing each other aside. They were making people feel like they weren't important, they were not needed, that their abilities were not needed, that they themselves were useless. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, he had to approach them by telling them, man, you all are a part of this body. You all work together. You all play a part. You all have a role. Even down to the weakest member, they have a role. And if you got a person within the body of Christ who is weak, then the people who are strong ought to lift that person up and make that person stronger so that they can become an asset to the body. But we don't chop our hands off. We don't chop our legs off. We don't chop our ears off, because we need our members. And so after he addresses that in chapter 12, when you get to chapter 13, he says, this is what you all are lacking. You all are lacking love. You all are lacking love. And once he addresses the concept of love, then he goes back to the conversation of spiritual gifts in chapter 14. So that's the context of chapter 13. So in chapter 13, in verse number 1, notice what he tells them. He says, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not loved, I become a sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. Meaning this right here. I don't care how many spiritual gifts you have. I don't care how many prophecies you can prophesy or how many tongues you can speak. I don't care how many events you can predict in the future. If you have not the love of Christ within you, if you don't treat each other with love, then what you're saying out of your mouth means nothing. It is just a bunch of sound. Now, in the eyesight of God, it's a bunch of sound, but also in the eyesight of the congregation at Corinth. Could you imagine these people up speaking in tongues and prophesying after treating their brethren like dogs? Those people sitting out in the audience were not paying them any attention. And so Paul says, your speech is like sounding, clanking cymbals. These people in the audience are not paying you any attention because you're not treating them with love. In chapter 2 of 1 Corinthians 13, he says, and though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mystery and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I can remove mountains and have not loved, I am nothing. Paul says, to the people at the Church of Corinth, I don't care how many gifts you have. I don't care how much faith you say you have in the eyesight of God. You are nothing if the concept of love and the actions of love are not present in your life. It took me a long time to get to that point in my life to understand that it wasn't just simply about me having the truth. It just wasn't simply about me standing on the truth. It just wasn't simply about me attacking people who disagree with me, attacking people that I believe had taught false doctrine. It took me a long time to realize that love behaves differently than that. You can have the truth. You can stand on the truth. But if you have the wrong attitude with the truth, it does nothing but harm. It does no good. Paul told these people, if you have all the knowledge in the world and all the faith in the world, but you have not loved, you are nothing. Now, we're going to get to the definition of love in just a minute. In verse number 3, he says, and do I bestow all my good to feed the poor, and I give my body to be burned, and have not love, it profits me nothing. Meaning, Church at Corinth, I don't care how much good you're doing in the community, Church at Corinth. I don't care how many people you're taking care of. You can give your life for people in the community, Church at Corinth, and you can give your body to be burned, but if you have not exhibited the actions of love toward nothing, then all the benevolent work that you are doing in Corinth means nothing. Y'all, this is important. This is serious. Because what Paul is basically saying, what God is saying through the Holy Spirit, is that there is no activity in our religious lives that we can do that's more important than us loving each other. Nothing. Not a sermon that we preach, not a prayer that we pray, not a false doctrine that we attack, not a homeless person that we clothe and feed, not a benevolent program in the world can take the place of how we love each other and how we treat each other. Is that important? And you know what? It makes you, it makes us understand what Jesus said in John chapter 13. I'm going to turn over there right quick in John chapter 13 and verse number 34 and 35. No, listen to these verses here. John 13, 34 and 35. A new commandment I give you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. And by this all will know you are my disciples. Notice, not by our benevolence, not by what we teach, not by how we stand on the truth, not by this, not by that, but by how we love one another, people will know you are my disciples. By how we love one another. It's important. So now, since we have established the importance of love, now let's define what love is. All right? Let's define what love is. Okay? I want to ask you, on my phone, and I want to try this out. I would like to try it out right now, and I can kind of take turns with someone to do it. But what I want to ask, if you're watching and you have a phone or something where you can go live video with me, and your hair and all that stuff is done, and your shade and all that, I would like for you to go live with me, right quick. Hey, Alan Lee, are you able to go live for probably about 5 minutes? I'm waiting because the time between the video and me actually talking is a delay. So, Alan, are you able to go live right quick, or Jason, one of y'all able to go live right quick? Because if you are, I invite you from my phone, and you accept the invitation, and your video pops up on the screen if you have a camera there. So just let me know, and if you can, I'll send you the invite. But until then, let's go back to 1 Corinthians 13. Because what I want to ask one of you all is, from your experience when it comes to love, what seems to be lacking in churches, in relationships, in our community, in our society, what has been lacking? And I think what has been lacking is love and what love really is. Even with forgiveness, I think sometimes when forgiveness, people, when people say love your, when God said love your enemies, it's hard for people to love their enemies because they think love is an emotional attachment, and it's not. Okay, so let's see what love is. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse number 4. Notice this now as I read it. I want you to count the actions. These are actions, not feelings. These are not emotions. All right? Now, verse 4, 1 Corinthians 13, 4. Love suffers long, meaning is patient. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. Is not puffed up. Does not behave rudely. Does not seek its own. Is not easily provoked or is not provoked. Thinks no evil. Does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Bears all things. Believes all things. Hopes for all things. Endures all things. Love never fails. 15 characteristics or actions that represent and show what love is. And a 16th statement being these things never fail. When a person loves you, these actions would never fail. That's what verse number 8 means when it says love never fails. What that means is this right here. When you love, you will never stop exhibiting the action of patience. When you love, you will never stop exhibiting the action of kindness. You will never stop exhibiting the action of not envying people. You will never stop exhibiting the action of not parading yourself around or not being puffed up. You will never exhibit the action of being rude. You will never exhibit the action of seeking your own interest over someone else. You will never exhibit the action of being easily provoked just because someone says something to you, or thinking evil, or rejoicing in iniquity and not rejoicing in the truth. Love never fails, meaning this right here. You will never ever fall prey to losing these actions in your life. Even if you sin for a moment. Now, what we're saying in this now, we're not saying perfection, because none of us are perfect. But according to 1 Corinthians 13, verse number 4, love is kind. So we're going to put verse 4 with verse 8. Love is kind. Verse 4. Verse 8, love never fails, meaning kindness never fails. If a person says they love you, then their kindness towards you should never fail. And if that kindness fails for a moment, then they should apologize and continue to be kind to you. So we're not saying perfection, but we're saying that even in our mistakes and in our sins, we correct the situation and continue to be kind. If someone says they love you and they're unkind to you and they're constantly unkind to you, how in the world can they love you? If someone says they love you and they're kind to you, but for a moment they became unkind, they apologize, and now they're being kind again, that's natural. That's natural. But it is not natural for someone to habitually and to consistently be unkind to you, yet they say they love you. That's a contradiction, because love is not an emotion, love is an action. And if someone says that they love you, it will be exhibited through the action of kindness. If someone says they love you, it will be exhibited through the action of patience. If someone says they love you, it will be exhibited through the actions of them not being rude to you. If someone loves you, it will be exhibited through them putting your own interests before their own interests. Okay? If someone loves you. And if someone is saying that they love you, yet their actions are different from what we just read in 1 Corinthians 13, I got to ask you the question, how much love is that? How much love is that? That's not a lot of love, y'all. That is not a lot of love at all. And that's something that we need to think about in our relationships as to how we conduct ourselves toward people and how people are conducting themselves toward us. And you remember the context right here. In 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1 through 3, Paul told the church at Corinth, I don't care how much truth you have. I don't care how much truth you have, how much error you are attacking, how much benevolent work you are doing. If you do not exhibit the actions of love, then everything you are doing is worthless. It's worthless. So, going back to my first point, or not my first point, but I said it earlier. When someone loves the way the Bible says in 1 Corinthians 13, here's what's going to happen. Love is not an emotion. Remember I said that? Love is not an emotion. Love is an action. A series of actions that produce emotions. And here's what I mean by that. When someone acts kind toward you, it makes you happy. That's the emotion. When someone is patient and kind with you, it makes you happy and it makes you thankful. Those are the emotions. When someone is happy, patient toward you, they're not rude toward you, they put your interests before their own, it produces in you all of these positive feelings of happiness, feelings of joy, feelings of thanksgiving, feelings of appreciation. You see, when you know you're loved is when you have positive emotions in you that are produced by the actions of the person who says they love you. That's when you know you're loved. What does the lack of love do? Okay, let's look at it in contrast. If a person says they love you, but they're always unkind to you, by them always being unkind to you, it produces in you the feelings of sadness, frustration. If someone is always unkind to you and is always impatient with you, it produces within you the feeling of sadness, frustration, anger. If someone is always unkind to you, and someone never has patience with you, and someone is always being rude to you, and so someone is always putting their interests before your own, it produces in you the emotions of anger, sadness, frustration, maybe even heartbroken, the feeling of being heartbroken. It produces in you the feelings of bitterness. See? So how can you know when you're loved? You can know when you're loved by the emotions that are produced in you from the actions of the person who says that they love you. So this is important for us to teach our children. Our children who are growing up, who will start dating, it's important. Because what we show them is this right here. My son or my daughter. If a person tells you that they love you, then they should show it in their actions. Make sure they're kind to you. Make sure they're patient with you. Make sure they're not rude to you or to other people. Make sure they put your interests before their own interests. Make sure they do all of these actions that Paul named in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Then you'll know you have a person in your life that loves you. Now, let's take it home and deal with us, people who are in relationships. Let's deal with you and me, not the person you're in relationship with. One of the things that's going to really help the people that you're in a relationship with is how you express these actions of love. If you want a person that you're in a relationship with to be happy more, the way to do that is not to complain about them being unhappy. The way to do that is not to sit around and complain about everything that they're doing wrong. The way to make a person that you're in a relationship with a lot more happier is to express to them the actions of love, kindness, patience, long-suffering, and all that kind of stuff, putting their interests before your own interests, so forth and so on. When you exhibit those actions toward a person that you're in a relationship with, it will, I'm telling you, it will. If it doesn't, it's a rare occasion. But when you treat people like that, it will produce in them the emotions of happiness and joy and laughter and those kind of things. But it has to be genuine. It has to be genuine. Okay, you cannot act these ways around people with ulterior motives. I'm only doing this to try to make you happy, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to stop. You can't do that. This has to become who you are as an individual. You got to do this unconditionally. The way we love cannot be tied to the actions of the person that we're trying to love. It has to be unconditional. It has to be sacrificial. That's what Christian love is all about. It's a sacrificial love. We love not because of what someone has done for us or to us. We love because of who we are and because of our relationship with God. And if that's the reason we love, that'll never change. But if you're loving based upon a person's response to you, based upon how a person treats you, then your love is going to be like a roller coaster. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, and it's going to go down. Why? Because the way people treat you is going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, and it's going to go down. So if our love is going to be consistent, it needs to be based upon our relationship with God and not our relationship with the person. That's the only way it's going to be consistent, y'all. Okay. And you know something? I know it's hard. I understand it's hard. Some of you all may be saying, man, you done lost your mind. What's wrong with you? How in the world can I be in a relationship with someone that talks to me like a dog, someone that curses me out, someone that... That's exactly my point. That's not love. I understand. That person is not loving you. Trust me, I understand. That person is not showing you love because they are producing in you all manner of bad emotions. But two wrongs don't make a right. And you will never ever fix that person by treating them like they treat you. In 1 Peter chapter 3, even though Peter was writing to wives, I think the principle is for everybody. And I think we do well to learn, men and women, the principle that Peter is stating right here in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse number 1. Notice what he says. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands. Now watch this. So that even if some do not obey the word. Notice this now. These wives were married to men who were not obeying God. They were not obeying the word. And watch what he says. They... without a word out of our mouth, they without a word may be won by the behavior or the conduct of the wife. Now we can take that same thing and turn it around with a man. Husbands, love your wives, love your own wives. That even if some do not obey the word, they may, husbands, without a word, be won by the behavior of the husband, the conduct of the husband. Well, what should the conduct of the husband or the conduct of the wife be, or the conduct of the person who is in a relationship that may be in a relationship with a person who is not treating them with love? What should their conduct be? That their conduct should be one of love. Just because you're not getting love don't mean you can't give love. It may be hard to do it, but it's doable. God did it to us. God did it to us. When we turn our backs on God, when we stab God in the back, when we were living our lives in sin, John said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. Listen to Romans chapter 5, beginning with verse number 6. For when we were still without strength, in due time Christ died for the ungodly. He didn't die for the godly. He didn't die for the righteous. He died for sin-sick people. He died for liars. He died for thieves. He died for sin-sick people, people who were stabbing God in the back. Jesus could have looked at us and he could have said, they don't deserve my love. They don't deserve my sacrifice, but he didn't. He says, even though they're not giving me love, I'm going to give love back. And in verse 6 it says, in due time Christ died for the ungodly. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet perhaps for a good man someone would even dare to die. But God demonstrated his own love toward us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. You see, love can be given even if it is not being received. It's so hard. I am not saying that at all, y'all. It's hard. I understand. And my heart goes out to people who have found themselves in relationships to where they are not being loved by someone else. My heart goes out to them. And two things about that. Number one, that's why it's important to teach our children what love really is. And number two, if you're in a situation like that, don't be hopeless. Don't be hopeless. There's always hope if you do it the way God said do it. Now, what you're going to find from time to time is doing it the way God said do it is not going to bring about the end results that you expected. Some people in the world don't want to be loved. Some people in the world get to a point where they don't want to be in a relationship. They see something out there that they think at the time is a lot better than what they have right now. And nothing you can do or say to these people is going to change their mind. I understand that. But for the people out there who have a heart that's willing to be changed, your actions of love toward them can bring them back. But guess what? If you don't show the actions of love toward them, you never would know if you had a chance of saving the relationship. You never would know. If a relationship is going to be destroyed, make sure you have done everything you can do when it comes to showing the actions of love. That's possible. So that in the end, you have no regrets. You have no regrets. So, subjects like this, y'all, they're informative, but at the same time, they can remind us about our own states that we find ourselves in. But the Bible is right. God is right. And regardless of what we do in the world, however many jobs we have to provide for our families, whatever schools we decide to send our children to get the best education, whatever communities that we've tried to live in to have the safety for our family, all those things are pointless and useless in the eyesight of God if we have not exhibited the love that we should exhibit toward each other within the church, within the body of Christ. However many homeless we feed, however many benevolent programs we have set up, however many false doctrines we've stood against, whatever the case may be, if we have not treated each other with the actions of love, all of that stuff is useless and it is pointless in the eyesight of God. Pointless. So we'll end up losing our soul, not because we haven't done benevolent work. We end up losing our soul not because we haven't stood against the false doctrine. We end up losing our soul not because we haven't attacked someone over here or attacked someone on this, or we haven't provided for our family. We end up losing our soul not because we wasn't doing all we could as a husband or as a wife. No, that won't be why we lose our soul. If we lose our soul in the church, it ain't gonna be because of false doctrine. That may be a cause, but if we lose our soul in the church, it's gonna be because of the lack of love we show toward each other in our actions. the lack of kindness, the lack of putting the people's interests before our own interests, and the lack of patience with each other. That's why we'll lose our soul. If we lose our soul in our families, it's not going to be because of our jobs or the lack of jobs. It's going to be because of the lack of love. It's going to be because of how we treat each other in our families, the lack of kindness, the lack of patience, the lack of long suffering, the lack of putting other people's interests before our own, selfishness. Those will be the reasons we lose our souls in our homes and in our churches and in our communities. And the same thing in our communities. If we lose our soul in our communities, it's going to be because of the lack of love we show each other. Black, white, blue, or brown, doesn't matter. The unkindness that we show each other in our communities because of races, the lack of patience we show each other in our communities because of races and so forth and so on, social status or whatever the case may be, that's going to be the reason we lose our souls in our communities. It's because of the lack of actions when it comes to love. Remember, love is not an emotion. Love is a series of actions, positive actions, that produce positive emotions in people. I want to close it out with Galatians chapter 6. Galatians chapter 6. Chapter 5. If I had to like add on to the definition of love in 1 Corinthians 13, I would add the fruit of the Spirit. And you know it says fruit of the Spirit, yet it names all of these different characteristics. Why does it say fruit of the Spirit? Let me ask y'all a question. I'm going to give y'all time to answer. In Galatians chapter 5 and verse 22, it says the fruit of the Spirit is singular. It says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, long-suffering, gentleness, kindness, so forth and so on. It doesn't say the fruits of the Spirit are these. It says the fruit of the Spirit, singular, is. Why doesn't it say the fruit of the Spirit, the fruits of the Spirit are, and then list all these different characteristics, but rather it says the fruit of the Spirit, singular, is. And then it lists all these things. Somebody tell me why you think that is the case. I'm going to give you a little time to answer that. Galatians chapter 5, verse 22, 23. Why does it say fruit of the Spirit, singular, is all of these different characteristics? Instead of saying the fruits of the Spirit, plural, are all of these different characteristics. I'll give you just a minute to tell me, and let's see what I can do while y'all trying to figure that out and get your answer. I got the perfect thing to give you time to, let's see. Watch this, y'all. Here it is. Check this out. That's not what I want. All right, here we go. Now, as you think about that question, here you go. I got some Jeopardy on. Is that Jason? Hold up, Jason. Hey Jason, you got to be on you got to be on your phone, on a live, your phone, so I could. Okay, I'll give you a call. Let's see here. All right, let's see. I think Hunter. There you go. There you go. Hunter has it exactly right. Hunter has it exactly right. All the, I couldn't have said it any better. All the fruits mentioned are one. That's important. All the fruits mentioned are one. You have to have them all in order to have the fruit of the Spirit. That's exactly right. Hunter hit the nail on the head. And you know what that means for us? What that means for us is this right here. We can't just say we have love and not have joy. We can't say we have joy and not have peace. We can't say we have peace and not have long suffering. We can't say we got long suffering and not have kindness and goodness and so forth. We got to have them all. In order to have the fruit of the Spirit, we must have love, we must have joy, we must have peace, long suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control all together. We can't pick and choose which one we can have. We got to have them all. Okay, and if we don't possess all of these characteristics, then we don't have the fruit of the Spirit. That's exactly right. And I think that's important because, you know, I've been in situations myself, and I've seen situations to where people may say they have love, but yet there's no peace. And I've been in situations where people say they have love and they may have peace, but they're not kind, or they don't have any patience with anybody. And I've been in that situation myself where I thought, I can look at my own life with my wife, me and Jennifer. And as I think back to my early years of marriage, I can see me and Jennifer, and I can see me telling Jennifer I love her, yet I can see at other times I was unkind to her. So me telling Jennifer I love her, yet I was being unkind to her. And that's a contradiction. And I can see me, telling Jennifer I love her, and there were times that I wasn't gentle with her. I was a little bit rough. I probably was a little bit rougher with Jennifer than I should have been as a husband. And love requires something different. And so what I began to figure out in my marriage with Jennifer is that love consists of a lot more than just saying it. Love consists of all these positive actions. I not only need to tell Jennifer I love her, but I need to have an environment of peace for her to live in. I need to be a little bit more gentle and a little bit more compassionate toward her feelings and the things that she go through and what she has going on in her life. I need to make sure I'm kind to her. I need to make sure I put her interests before my own. That was my battle when I first got married, and it's still my battle today, and I'm winning the battle. Sometimes there may be a part, there may be a small part of the time in that battle that I lose a momentary fight, but I try to get back on the road again to fight that battle. Because there's no way for her to feel love if the actions of love are not there. And I think we've got to be that way toward each other in our homes, in our communities, and in our churches. Remember what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 13. We can do all this great stuff in the world, but if we have not love, we are nothing. In our homes, if we have not love, y'all, in our homes, we're nothing. In our communities, I don't care what the struggle is and what the fight is for. If we have not love in our communities, y'all, we are nothing. We have got to start showing the actions of love toward each other. Remember, Jesus said in John 13:35, by this all would know you my disciples, by how you love each other. That's it. There were no other prerequisites. Jesus didn't say people can look at anything else to tell that we're disciples, but he said how we love each other. And that's important. Okay. Thank you, Sister Shaw. I appreciate it. What if we don't show them all at the same time, but all of them at different times? Do we still have the fruit of the Spirit? What are humans? We're humans and can't be perfect. That's a good point, Scotty. And I think let me break the question down for everybody. What Scotty just asked is this right here. Scott says, based upon what I just said, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentle, kindness, faithfulness, so forth. We must have all of those to have the fruit of the Spirit. And Scott's question is, what if we don't have all of these characteristics at the same time? At the same time. My follow-up question would be this right here. Is it possible to have all of them at the same time? Scott, I actually think it is possible to have all of them at the same time. And the reason why I think that is the case is because this is an environment that's created within your mind and how you carry yourself as a person. How do you know a person is loving? Person is a person of peace. A person is a person of long suffering and joy and so forth and so on. How can you look at a person and see that in them? By their behavior. Scott, I think we can behave in such a way that people can look at us and see every one of these things in us based upon how we behave. I actually think we can have all of these all the time. Okay. All right, let me grab okay. All right. So Scott, I think we can have all these things all the time. But I don't think it's like, okay, don't divide it up like, okay, 1 minute I'm gonna love, the next minute I'm gonna make peace, or the next minute I'm gonna long suffer, or the next minute I'm gonna be gentle, or the next minute I'm gonna be kind. Don't break it up like that. Because I don't think we break it up like that. I think these things are just a part of our nature and our behavior. You know, for instance, take it here at Austinville. I will, Jason. Definitely will give you a call. Take it here at Austinville. You walk up in the door in Austin. I can walk in the door at Austinville here and look at someone and see all of these qualities in that person just based upon my conversation with. And I see it all the time. I see it all the time when I'm talking to people. I see every one of these qualities in them the moment that I start talking to them. And that's just one example. And so when I'm looking at these qualities, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out how do we become like this. And it's simply a matter of how we behave, how we carry ourselves around people, how we carry ourselves around our spouse. Okay? How we carry ourselves around our spouse will produce the type of behavior within us that's going to produce positive behaviors within our spouse. I don't think when you're kind to someone, let me just give you an example, Scott. When you're kind to someone, take that one word kindness. Do you know what's present in that one word kindness? What's present in that one word kindness is peace, joy, goodness, and gentleness. Just that quickly, just by being kind to someone, you have already expressed all these other characteristics that go along with kindness. So it's difficult to do one without doing the other because they go together. Now the next question we probably need to ask God is this right here. What happens if we don't do it all the time? I think we can possess them all at the same time, but what if we don't do it all the time? Well, I don't think any of us will ever get to the point where we're 100% doing this every day without falter. It's not going to be that way. We're going to make mistakes, y'all. Our temper is going to get the best of us. Life is going to get the best of us. You know, situations are going to get the best of us. Worry is going to get the best of us. The burdens of life are going to get the best of us. And there may be a time that we become unkind. But it's just simply remembering who we are, reflecting on who we are as children of God, as Christians. And as children of God and as Christians, once we realize the mistake we've made, once we realize that we've been unkind, and once we realize we've been unloving, that's when we were corrected and we say, I'm sorry, I need to start back doing what I know I need to do, and that is be kind to you. Because in me being kind to you, that's truly how I express my love for you. And I want to apologize. We should do this in our communities, y'all. We should do this in our homes, y'all. And we should do this in our churches. You know, because it's that important. It's that important to understand what love really is. Okay. So, like I said in the beginning, this is hard. It's hard. But, yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Scotty. And it's a difficult thing, especially when you think about the concept of loving your enemy. What Jesus said in Matthew chapter 5, verse number 43, you have heard it had been said, to love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemy, do good to those who do good to those who hate you. Pray for those who spitefully misuse and persecute you. Bless those who curse you. When you think about the concept of love and loving your enemy, you know what he is saying? He is saying, you better be kind to the people who are unkind to you. I don't care if it's your enemy. You better be patient with the people who are patient to you. I don't care if it's your enemy. Okay? You better put other people's interests before your own interests, even if it's your enemy. You better be gentle with people who are not gentle to you, even if it's your enemy. You better show goodness to people who don't show goodness to you, even if it's your enemy. Do y'all realize what a handful that is? But it's what we sign up for when we follow Jesus. And it's no less honorable than what he did. He died on the cross. I mean, Jesus could have killed everybody there. He told Peter, when Peter took that sword out and cut that guy's ear off, Peter said, boy, put that thing up. I can call down here as many angels as I want to kill everybody if I want to. But Jesus says, that's not why I'm here. And he went to the cross willingly because of the love he had for the people who hated him. And that's the love that we also must show in our lives for people as well. It's a hard thing, y'all. But it's something that we must do. Something that we must do. Not only must we do it, it's something that we can do it. So teach your children, please. Teach your young daughters and your young sons about the actions of love so they will know that when they see another person that they are interested in, these signs will show them I need to move on and I need to let them go and look further. Because if we don't teach our children that love is not, if we don't teach our children that love is not an emotion, but rather that love is an action, then we're going to allow our children to fall head over heels for people who treat them like dogs. And it happens all the time. Because they think love is an emotion. They think that feeling that they feel within inside of them is that's what really matters. And as long as they have that feeling, that's it. That's the answer. When that's not the case. Love is not an emotion. Love is an action. And what they should be looking for, what your daughter should be looking for in a man, is a man, number one, that's trying to live right. Trying to follow God, trying to do the right thing. And number two, a man that's going to treat her right. That's going to treat her with the actions of love. And the same thing with your son. What your son should be looking for in a woman is not a woman that makes him feel a certain way on the inside, but a woman that's trying to live right. A woman or a girl who's trying to follow God, and a girl who's going to treat him with the actions of love. Because in the end, when the face is gone, the body is gone, the wig is on, and the wrinkles come and all of that, the only thing that's going to be left is what was present in the beginning, and that is how they treat each other, the actions of love. That's what brought them together, that's what bonded them together, and that's the only thing that's going to hold them. But if the relationship is based on anything temporal that soon could be gone, that relationship is going to crumble. And that is what we need to teach our kids, y'all. We've got to teach our kids about love and what love really is. And we've got to teach the people in our communities about love too. So within our communities, we can start loving each other. And I'm not talking about blacks loving blacks and whites loving whites and Mexicans loving Mexicans. I'm talking about everybody loving everybody, everybody treating each other kind, everybody being patient with each other, everybody understanding that we all are not perfect, but that we strive for perfection, and we're gentle toward each other, and we're not pessimistic, but we're optimistic with each other. We've got to start doing that in our communities, or we're going to eat each other alive. We're going to eat each other alive in our communities. We're going to eat each other alive in our homes. We're going to eat each other alive in our churches, or we're going to love each other to death in our communities, love each other to death in our homes, and love each other to death in our churches. It's going to be one or the other. But the choice of which one it's going to be is up to me and it's up to you. It's not up to the person over here. It's not my spouse. It's not the next door neighbor. It's not the church member that sits across there. It's going to be up to me and what I can do as an individual. But anyway, y'all, I appreciate y'all tuning in this morning. I really do. And Thank y'all so much. And I'm going to get ready to sign off here in just a minute. I'll be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock, Lord willing, for the Bible class on the life of Christ. Survey on the life of Christ tomorrow. So those of you who are following that class, just be back here with me at that time. If nobody have anything else before I get off, I give you just a second, and then if you don't have anything else, we'll go ahead and sign on off. But if not, I appreciate everybody for tuning in this morning. All right, well, I'm gonna sign off, y'all, and we'll close it out with our song, Duke of Earl. Y'all have a good day. God bless you. Keep my family in your prayers, and as we keep your families in our prayers also. Y'all be blessed. Love you. And roll tide. Roll tide. Fiji, from the islands of Fiji.